Welcome to Stockton-Con 2013. Okay, so we're inside the Stockton arena here for Stockton-Con 2013. The doors are about 5 minutes from opening, so behind us we can see the swag bags being assembled by volunteers and everything going on. Just wanted to give a quick intro. Looks like an awesome show, a huge crowd. Last year they expected about 750 in attendance and they ended up getting over 4,000, like 4,200. So it's been a huge hit. Really awesome from what we've seen so far in terms of the setting, the setup, the organization, the timelines. Everybody seems really on the ball and very focused, and so we're excited about the day. The doors are going to open in a few minutes. Everybody's going to come charging in. Lots of vendors already set up and ready to go. Didn't see too many kind of lagging, so that's kind of a cool thing to see. One really unique thing about Stockton-Con I want to get in now before we get into the craziness of the day is there's a real focus on charity, giving, community, not a money grab, and so this is something unique in the convention business often, is a lot of times it feels like everybody's looking for a different way to get another $5, $10 squeezed out of you, and this show's a little bit different. $10 ticket price. They encourage you to bring gently used clothing and do pre-sales and get a $6 ticket. They've got a lot of charity going on. St. Mary's Dining Room. We've got United Way. 100% of their auction with all the original artwork and things like that goes to charity. So it's like they find there's a bunch of parking that they were able to get donated for free, and so not to say that there isn't going to be money spent, as with any show, you got to spend money to have these things, right? But definitely I've never seen a show that has such a focus on giving and kind of community as this one, so I was anxious to kind of see the day. Off to the side over here we've got several charity booths set up, which is kind of a unique thing at a convention, is free space for them to look for donations to help with poverty, children's homes, things like that. And so really an awesome kind of theme of giving that they have going on here in Stockton. And it's clear that this is a show more about community than it is about making the money. So all right, let's go ahead and take a look more around and see what we can find.
On 2013, the huge follow-up to last year's Stockton-Con. You blew out the Spanish Center, so we had to move it into the arena to fit all of you today. Again, we'd like to thank all of you for joining us, and we'd like to thank the sponsors that have made this possible. Thank you to the United Way of San Joaquin, the St. Mary's Dining Room, Jagged Lines of Imagination, the YMCA, and of course the Stockton Arts Commission, without which we would not be here today. And of course the proceeds from this event, some of them will be going to the St. Mary's Dining Room. So not only have you paid to get into this event, but you've also helped people out that are in need. Feel free to peruse everything that's here today. On the floor are all the vendors. Our panels, which will be going on in the King's Room, start up at about 11 o'clock. Again, we have special guests, Richard Hatch and Linda Blair, so make sure you catch that in the King's Room. Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments going on, among others. And you may definitely want to get involved in that as well. So again, feel free to spend, and just enjoy your time here at Stockton-Con 2013.
All right, so we're here on the floor of Stockton-Con. Everything's getting in full swing. People are making their way in, and obviously we talked about the charity and giving components of the show, but what a lot of you are tuning in to watch is just what's the actual show like and what can we expect. And so we're going to hit the floor, look around. Looks like lots of vintage toys, vintage comics, new comics, so real strong toy and comic vibe, as well as an artist alley where we saw lots of kind of unique, one-of-a-kind designs too. So we're going to go take a look and spin around the floor and see what we find out there. floor is packed already. We're only about an hour or so into the show. Packed, lots of toys, lots of fun comics, new stuff, variants, exclusive to the show, things like that. So lots of fun stuff on the floor, cosplay and so on like that. Outside of the arena, there's kind of a nice area of the walkway around, which they're using for game meetups, kids drawing areas, a bunch of kind of things to allow people to kind of get away from the con and the crowds of the floor and come out here and check out some other things. So let's take a quick look around on this outside area and see some of the games, drawings, and other things they have going on out here. Second floor of the Stockton Arena, or above the actual floor down there where the main show's going on. But what's cool up here, there's more food opportunities, or more food places to eat, I'm sorry. Seating places all over the spot. And then back here we've got a ton more vendors, a lot of photo ops going on up here, a Stockton variant cover, things like that. So let's go take a look around. This floor is packed. The upper deck area is packed. Basically everywhere you go at Stockton-Con is packed, which is awesome to see. I think the show, we can already see just midway through the day, is a huge success. Looks like vendors are moving a lot of product, artists are doing a lot of sketches, and a lot of cool stuff going on, tons of cosplay, people having a good time. One of the things also that it has, which is unique for a one-day show, and we always think is really cool when you have a one-day show, that's able to pull it off. Long Beach Comic Expo has been one in the past that does it. We have a panel room here, so they have a costume contest they're hosting in there. We've got the several artists doing little exhibits in there, or I should say demonstrations in there, talking about how to draw and approaches to the art and things like that. So it's kind of a cool addition to that. Also outside you have a whole wrestling demonstration going on with the Bushido group coming and kind of doing their best WWE type performances out there. So just a ton of different nooks and crannies, whether it's from the gaming, the cosplay, the exhibitors, obviously the panels, tons of places to kind of fit in where anything you're looking for in terms of that geeky or nerd fix you can find here at Stockton-Con. So really a lot of impressive stuff. We're going to keep hitting the floor. We'll come back at the end of the day with a little bit of wrap up of kind of some of the things we picked up and kind of an overview. wrapped up at Stockton-Con for the day. We're going to have a bunch of stuff to talk about as we go up to the room and kind of wrap up some of the things, observations on the show and some of the cool things we saw. But one of the things I want to point out before we go there is just because some people may not be familiar with the Stockton area, and I know for us coming into Stockton-Con, we weren't sure what to expect. It's at the Stockton Arena, which is a relatively new, brand new, really nice place that they hold it. Behind us here, this is all right next to the arena. We've got a dock, we've got boats out here, parks, people having little picnics and things like that. There's a movie theater behind us over here, got some live music off to the place. A really nice hotel that's almost adjacent to the Stockton Arena, which was awesome to stay in. Brand new rooms, fully renovated, things like that. So just one of the things we wanted to kind of take a quick look just kind of around outside the Stockton Arena, because for those that aren't familiar with the Stockton area, I don't know what you're expecting. We expected a little bit more industrialized of an area. We expected not to have as many amenities or as many things right around the area, but this is very much like when we go to a Long Beach or a San Diego in terms of the types of stuff. Not that there's necessarily as many of those things, but just a bunch of really cool things right in the area that you can just walk from your room, and the rooms are beautiful. So the whole setting down here is just awesome, and so something really cool about Stockton. For us, Long Beach is always a big show in terms of just like the aesthetics and the beauty of the show, and one of the things we really like about Long Beach Comic-Con is just partly the setting and the places you can go to eat and all the stuff there. And so it sounds a little funny for us to say the same thing about Stockton, being unfamiliar with it and hearing more people like, well, it's inland, it's off the water, things like that. But it's just a really beautiful area, lots of really cool things going on, and this area has been really revitalized. And a part of it is Stockton-Con and what they're doing in terms of getting the word out and bringing in different businesses and things like that to team up with the show. So a lot of great partnerships going on, and just in general, one of the things I would definitely look forward to if you're coming to Stockton-Con next year is the actual surrounding area, which is really cool. All right, so let's go ahead and head up to the room, do our wrap up of Under the Con, and kind of see what are some of the things we found and observations about this show. All right, guys, so we are wrapping up Stockton-Con 2013 with our Under the Con, which if you followed our videos, you know is always our kind of final wrap-up, kind of an under the hood. A lot of times it's in the parking garage under the show, but Under the Con to give some ideas of what to expect from the show for future shows and give you a little wrap-up of what we saw. And a big part of how we use that is some of the things that we pick up to kind of provide a framework. So I want to start out in general for us Stockton-Con. I'm sure you've gathered from the footage you've seen and the things I've said earlier in the video that it really impressed us and it kind of caught us for a surprise. To be totally honest, with San Diego Comic-Con a couple weeks before and D23 Expo coming up the week after for us, this is our 19th show of the year, and with 18 and 20 being such huge shows, we didn't have huge expectations for this, to be honest, just because it's one of those things where we're kind of so in the mode of these big shows, and we weren't sure what to expect, and we thought this was going to be a nice show, a good show, a quality show, but definitely a small show. And so to see as big of a show as it was, as crowded as it was, as well managed as it was, these were not things that we expected, and we were very impressed. And so one thing I hope you take away from the video is that this is really a show to respect and to definitely consider in terms of your planning, whether you're an exhibitor, vendor, artist, attendees. This is definitely a show that should be taken into consideration. Talked to several vendors that actually said they felt like they did better at this show than any other convention this year. Heard several say that this was more profitable for them than San Diego Comic-Con. Obviously different in terms of logistics of how much it costs to go to a San Diego Comic-Con and be a vendor there. But that being said, this isn't just a nice little show. This is a show to be really respected as one of the up-and-comers in the state of California, if not the nation. So to kind of start that off and provide a little bit of framework, I want to hit on just a couple things that the show itself provided. So in addition to their focus on charity and cheap tickets and trying to get people free parking and entertainment and all this stuff that the show tried to provide, they also put out some things that really put it to the head of the class in terms of the type of quality of what they bring to them. So first off, just a program, and so if you've been to a San Diego Comic-Con, you expect a nice program guide, but if you haven't been to many other cons, they're few and far between, and they're often tiny little booklets with maybe a couple pages in them. This is a 22-page book with all sorts of information, artwork from different artists that were at the show, advertisement space, all kinds of cool stuff in here. And this was just free for everyone right coming in the door. And so right off the bat, from the second the attendees walked into the show, you kind of expect a little bit of a higher quality. And when you consider most of these people paid $6 that donate, they paid $6 for their ticket, and then they donated some clothing, or maybe at most they paid $10. It's not something you expect when you come in. The fact that they had panels going, and so on and so forth. Just some things that you don't always expect from a one-day show, but this one had. We picked up a couple shirts. The fact that they have their own official shirts with their cool design. We even went so far, I've never even bought or even looked into getting a volunteer shirt before, but we actually purchased a volunteer shirt. We were able to buy some at the end of the day when they're closing up, just because they're really cool, really cool designs, cool colors that they had that kind of stand out, a little bit different than other conventions. But just the fact that they even had these shirts in the first place, and $10 and $15 for those two shirts. So kind of sets a tone for what you expect from the show, is that this is, a major player, not just some tiny little, thing off to the side there. A big focus of Stockton-Con is comics and artwork and artists, and so want to hit on a couple things with artists. If you follow Ivico on Twitter, he's a good friend of ours, but we picked up a blank sketch that he had by the kind of official artist of Stockton-Con in many ways, Ramon Villalobos. So really kind of cool looking Batman there we were able to pick up. We picked up some prints for ourselves. Just thought there were some, unique designs that he puts out, some awesome stuff, some stuff that, just different than the standard stuff. We picked up a Darkwing Duck print there for a friend of ours inside the Magic, big Darkwing Duck fan. And then we officially purchased our first pony anything. So I don't know that we're quite, or I don't know I consider myself a brony so far, but this cool cover with the Stockton-Con in it, I'm a real sucker for conventions being able to feature themselves in some way in the comics and things like that. And so thought this is just too cool to pass on, that Stockton-Con had their own comic. Because again, a lot of people think it's just this tiny little show. And I know for myself, not really being aware of all that the show had to offer, I didn't know to expect the caliber, the quality, the size of what we found here. So at the heart of the show definitely is comics. You find tons of Bronze and Silver Age comics all over the floor, lots of new comics as well. We focused on filling in some holes. If you followed in the before, Green Lantern and Avengers are kind of a focus for me. So we picked up some great prices on some old classic books that we needed to fill holes there. Lots of dealers there with 50% off bins, and obviously you got to figure in the price because it could be marked up from there. But we didn't find that. We found really good deals from start to finish, whether it was on new stuff, old stuff, but definitely some great options there for comics, both new and old, and definitely something you want to plan for. Nice artist alley they have going there. In addition to the artists, as you saw some of our prints and things like that we picked up in sketches. Also though, just cool, well, for example, purses and things like that, and little dolls and plushes and all sorts of fun little things like this. But this is just kind of an awesome from the Star Wars, the old Marvel comic book, and so Carmel picked this up, and it was $18, and they had several designs from Star Trek, Batman, Superman, things like that. But the fact that they just have these cool purses for, again, good prices. One of the things about the show is we just found almost nothing overpriced. And the vendors just really did a good job of finding that sweet spot where you're paying a really good price across the board. I'm not saying, that we couldn't find some things overpriced, because any show you go to, you're going to find that. But by and large, we found better deals at this show than I think most, I would say 90% of the shows we go to. And so that was a cool thing to find. That carries over into the new toys, and so Marvel Universe, you can see $5. I mean, this is basically half the price these would cost at Target, and so that was an awesome find and really cool. A couple figures that we've been needing for a little bit here. This, I think the cheapest I've seen it in most settings of cons is I can't find it anywhere in a regular store, but $25, and at Stockton-Con it was $15, so it's kind of an instant buy. And so again, kind of keeping that theme, the Barbarian Hulk. Most places we're finding it these days $25. Never seen it cheaper than $20. We bought it for $15. All the Marvel Selects at one of the booths there had them for $15. And so again, just it was kind of consistent, and we actually ended up doing something we never do at shows. I mean, it's kind of a rule of ours to not go to the ATM. We actually went to the ATM to get more money to buy some things, because it seemed like every time we moved two more booths down, we'd find something and say, wow, that's a price that we can't pass up. We're not going to be able to get it for that price next week or next month or at any other shows. And so we ended up actually, purchasing a little bit more than we normally do, and definitely a lot more than we expected to coming to Stockton-Con, because again, in our mind, the show was going to be small. There's going to be limited offerings. We thought, again, a quality show, good people running it, but we didn't think that there was going to be the amount of volume of offerings there, and that there'd be so much cool stuff basically making its way there. A real weak spot for me always is vintage toys as well as the vintage comics, and so I've not seen the amount of vintage Star Wars and maybe even vintage toys at a show since maybe I was a kid, and it wasn't so much vintage at that time. So more vintage Star Wars at Stockton-Con than at San Diego Comic-Con. And so that sounds crazy to say, but it's true. You know, we saw everything from 12-back, you know, original Kenner 12-back Star Wars to Power the Force carded stuff to prototypes, just all sorts of really cool stuff. And so I picked up a Han trench coat, not the most rare of vintage Star Wars, but it's what the budget could afford this time around. And in that vein of just kind of vintage stuff, just so many cool, you know, vintage finds that were things that you don't, you know, sometimes you find things and you're like, I didn't even know I was looking for that till I see it. And so, you know, not that we haven't seen these ever before, but just some dollar packs of, you know, Batman, Tim Burton Batman movie. And so just kind of some fun stuff there for $1 a piece from Disney. The old haunted house Disneyland record. And so this is 1964. So we're going back to, you know, the beginnings of Disneyland as a park, one of the first things in those first 10 years they put out there. And so $5 for the record. And so an awesome little find there. And so, you know, I think the items just showed you really kind of wrap up that idea of what Stockton-Con has to offer and the types of vendors that are there, whether you're looking for vintage, new, comic, original artwork, toys, that goes round and round. It had a little bit of everything, and then most importantly, everything at good prices. You know, it's very common for us because we do hit a lot of conventions and we do hit a lot of antique shops and toy shops and, you know, things, and many of them end up being museums for us, meaning that they're places that we can only look at things and maybe not touch and definitely not buy. But that wasn't the case here. The case here was that we were able to actually buy some things. And again, it took an extra trip to the ATM to get the things that we wanted, but it was all in good. It wasn't, we didn't overpay for anything. And I don't think really there was a single item we bought that we'd seen anywhere else at a better price. They were all kind of like the bare of what we had even seen, and in many cases even beat eBay prices, which is, you know, something that you don't really see at conventions. So in kind of wrapping up, some things to hit, you know, quality throughout. Big kudos to them for the work that they did in terms of organization, in terms of having a strong volunteer force. This is something a lot of shows we see really screw up, to be honest, is not having enough volunteers. You need, you know, armies. From my understanding, they had over 100 volunteers. And so that's huge. And that's the type of workforce you need, is you need those people that can come in. You need them to know what's going on or to know how to find somebody to get answers for you. Line monitoring, you know, all sorts of things like that. And you can never have too many volunteers. And so it was really nice to see they had the bright green shirts. They were easy to find. They were knowledgeable. And most importantly, they were everywhere. So they were always easy to find, and, you know, you can reach out to them. In terms of the vendors, across the board, again, good prices, a diverse offering. It wasn't any one type of thing, so lots of things to expect there. Panels, again, outside of Long Beach Comic Expo, you know, there's not many one-day shows that you find that will have panels. And this one actually had some panels, and they had, you know, costume contests, some really cool cosplay. One thing that you really see in Stockton is that this part of the state is really hungry for their kind of nerd and geek culture. And Stockton-Con's doing a great job of feeding them, you know, providing something great with a real sense of community and of helping the community at its heart and providing a real quality product there. And so that's really awesome. Of the shows we go to in the year, haven't seen one yet that has the focus on giving and community that this one does. And so that's something that kind of hits you right in, you know, not to be too dramatic, but kind of hits you right in the heart from the very beginning. This is a show that, you know, it wants its people to have a good time, and all of us there to have a good time and see the newest, coolest costumes and, you know, variant cover comics and get our toys and things like that. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that we can't do things to help people out and donate a little bit of money or donate a little bit of time or some gently used clothing or things like that. And that's really cool. And there's one reason that you consider coming to Stockton-Con 2014, it might be just that, is to think about, of the shows you're going to go to as you're kind of planning your conventions for the year, how many of them are going to do something to actually help the community and be cool and fun. But I'm not recommending this show just because, you know, it does nice things and it's kind of a feel-good moment. I'm recommending the show because we had a blast. You know, we really had a blast. And so we definitely are hoping that it's a show that spreads out to 2 days, maybe 3 days someday, that it continues to grow and keeps doing this and keeps this idea of giving, charity, and community at the heart of it. So something to consider for next year. We hope in 2014 to be back. In fact, you know, we're going to be looking for the dates and planning it as as soon as it comes out and making sure we're able to make it. And hoping to be a part of kind of as this show grows. This was year number 2. In year number 1, it went from a goal of 700, 800 people to actually 4,000 showing up. We're not sure how many showed up this year, but it felt like a lot more than that. So, you know, maybe by the time you're watching that, that will be officially announced. But definitely a great show, definitely a show that's going someplace, and definitely not a show to be considered small. More of a show to be considered an up-and-comer and a true contender in the convention market. So definitely check it out, try and get here. For us, it ended up being about a 6.5, 7-hour drive, and it was totally worth it. Time well spent. Very happy with the decision. Beautiful hotel adjacent to it. Beautiful arena that the show's held in. Awesome little area here with movie theaters, nice restaurants and things like that. Couldn't be more pleased with everything. It might be, you know, Long Beach and San Diego are other 2 shows that really have that kind of awesome of a location as this one does, in terms of just kind of being able to go out from the show and just kind of chill and have a nice meal and maybe see a movie or check out the boats on the water or some really cool things like that. So hope you've got some good info in Stockton-Con from us, and obviously you can tweet me at _con_fluence. Check us out on our website, theconfluencecovers.com, and hopefully we'll see you at Stockton-Con in 2014. So until next time, we'll go ahead and see you in line somewhere.